Give us just a couple of minutes. We're trying to get the OWL camera working.
Okay. I sat in the car driving in briefly, and I stiffened up, and I was like, "Oh boy,
Yeah.
let me get my computer up here. We can all be on Zoom, can we not?"
technical difficulties. Can you hear and see all of us?
I can see 3 people and I can hear you.
Can you see the three of, can you see Isabel, Tom, and me?
Yes.
You can come up a little closer, maybe. No, maybe further away. Realizing what the frame is.
Make it so it's mirror image. It's gonna drive me nuts to have me on the opposite side.
Do you know how to? I don't know how to do it. Do you know how to do it?
That's something I've never done. Well.
Mirror my video.
Penny, how's Ed doing?
Okay, he's sleeping a lot. You know, I think he's had at least 2 naps today, but
Well, that's good.
yeah, he doesn't have, you know, severe chest issues, which that's when you'd go in for, you know, get other treatment kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Well, good, I'm glad.
yeah. So he thinks I'm the person that has to run errands, you know, so.
Of
Well,
course.
you do.
Yeah.
You just have to tell him you're exhausted from doing all the things he usually does.
No?
Kathy said she would be about 10 minutes late or so she should be here anytime now. But
Yeah, since we're there, I'm getting. How much longer do we have?
Yeah.
Next Friday. Yes, 10th is.
Sorry, Penny, I was just asking how long Kathy is still gonna be working for us. It's until the 10th, apparently.
I didn't, oh my gosh, okay. Oh, darn.
Yeah, exactly.
And we won't start this. So usually I've been I'm used to being informal in executive committee meetings. And now that we are supposed to be formal with our presentations, I'm going to really try. To be more formal.
Whenever you're ready.
No, we're not waiting for Kathy.
She's coming in right now.
Oh, okay. There we go. Hello, Kathy, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Good. We are jury rigged today. Jerry rigged, not jury rigged, jerry rigged. Because the owl has let us down somehow. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm glad you could be with us. I'd like to call to order the May 31st, 2022 meeting of the Monroe County Solid Waste District Board's Executive Committee. And we'll begin with an attendance roll call.
Munson,
Here.
Elon Smith,
Here.
Githens,
Here,
all are present.
Will you note that who is present in person and virtually?
Munson and Piedmont Smith are present in person. Githens is present virtually.
Thank you. So we have the executive committee meeting minutes of April 4th, which all of us looked at some time ago. And I have not gone back to look at them again because I already looked at them. Does anybody have any questions or comments about those minutes?
no,
I move approval of the executive committee minutes of April 4th, 2022. Oh,
Second,
that's right. Okay. Yes, we can approve them. Sorry.
And did I hear a second from Penny?
yes, I seconded, yes.
Thank you. So all in favor signify by saying
I
aye.
think
Oh, you have to do
we
the
need
roll
do a
call.
call with the virtual
Yes, sorry.
participation.
Roll call vote, please.
Piedmont Smith,
Yes.
Githens,
Yes,
Hunt,
Yes,
motion passes.
thank you. Now we have a review of the joint board of directors and citizens advisory committee meeting minutes of April 14th.
Yes, and I apologize. I had intended to put a memo in front of these in the packet that CAC, they've been provided to the CAC. Unfortunately, they did not have a quorum at their last meeting, so they have not approved them. But I wanted you to be aware of that. I wasn't sure if the board would want to go ahead and review and approve them prior to the CAC or not.
So,
I did review them and I made some corrections in the Dropbox. And I had one question.
go ahead, please.
So when, and Joe is on the call, so maybe he can clarify. When Joe Winia was talking about the full project cost of the biodigester study, and he referred to comments from Kelson at the March meeting where he said, once the study is complete, it will take a countywide effort to decide whether or not we want to proceed. And Kelson doesn't see it as a CBU project, but rather a countywide project. Now, this next sentence is where I get confused. It says, so if it will require support from the district to move forward, it would be illogical to contribute to the study now if the district also intends to contribute to the installation of the digester if it's determined to be feasible. Joe, is that what you said? I don't understand.
That actually is one item that I had planned to mention for a correction. What I had expressed was that it would only be logical for the district to spend now if it planned to spend later. So not illogical, it would only be logical. And I had made a comment to that in Dropbox, but I think there was a different copy in the CAC directory.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I did not pull the copy out of Dropbox that the CAC had reviewed to put into this packet. Again, a little unorthodox of a process since the CAC didn't get a chance to vote on it at their meeting. Hence the question earlier, is the board comfortable reviewing and acting on that on the off chance that the CAC may come back and say, but this isn't right, or we have a question about it.
Can't we vote to approve subject to their approval?
But it might be subject to the changes that they might make.
Yeah, if they request changes after the board's approved it, it would have to come back to the board.
So when is the board meeting before the next CAC meeting?
Yes.
I guess we can wait.
I-
Or maybe Joe, have you reviewed these minutes?
I did. That was the one correction that I saw and had to make.
Yeah. So
I would trust Joe that if it's unlikely that other CAC members would have corrections, although, I mean, they were there, they may have, want something relayed differently that they themselves said. So I don't.
okay, so I'm happy if we can put in Joe's corrections into the minutes.
I just put it in.
Oh,
Yeah.
you just put it in?
That's
Okay.
easy enough to do.
And in that case, I think we can review the subject to CAC approval, and we'll know about that prior to the next, prior to our board meeting. Will we not?
No, the CAC meets after. the board.
You would know prior to the July board meeting.
Okay. So we're not going to move this forward in any case to the board. So,
It's a matter of the board's comfort in voting on it before the CAC has. That's what it boils down to.
well, I don't want to take it to the full board until the CAC has done this. So can we just table this for now? Do we have a motion to table?
So moved.
Second,
Thank you. Mr. McGlasson?
Githens,
yes,
Munson,
Yes.
Piedmont Smith,
Yes.
motion passes.
Okay. More minutes. The executive committee, executive session minutes of April 25th. 2022.
I move approval of the executive committee executive session minutes of April 25th.
second,
And does anybody have any questions or comments on these? Other than what's in Dropbox? My Dropbox says the district edited this 4 days ago. And that's all I have.
Yeah, I didn't put any changes in that one.
Okay. And so it's very simple and straightforward minutes. But I think we can move on to the board.
These would be for the executive committee to approve and then present to the board for information.
Yes. Excuse me.
There's a motion on the table.
There's motion on the table. I think we have no further comments. Would you call the roll, please?
Munson,
Yes.
Piedmont Smith,
Yes.
Githens,
yes,
motion passes.
Then we have the Board of Directors meeting minutes from May 12th. And I did not review these, which I have been doing, but it fell by the way of something I don't know. Did anybody review these?
Yes, I did.
Okay,
And I'll go ahead and move approval or move that we forward the meeting minutes of Board of Directors of May 12th to the full board for approval
second,
as revised in Dropbox.
okay, thank you. And my Dropbox doesn't tell me about any revisions.
You kind of have to scroll down to the second page to see the first one.
Yes,
Congratulations.
it's very minor, very minor. So thank you, Ms. Piedmont Smith, for reviewing these. If there's no further discussion, we will have a roll call vote.
Piedmont Smith,
Yes.
Githens,
yes,
Munson,
Yes,
motion passes.
so thank you. We'll be forwarding these to the full board. The next item on our agenda is our report from the controller. And will this be our last report from the controller Kathy Martin?
I think it will be.
It's so sad.
It is very sad. I'm sad in a lot of ways, but it was, and I wasn't looking, so there's that, but just something that came up and
Well, we're sad for us, but very glad for you
thank you. I appreciate
and very appreciative of your work. So thank you, Kathy. So let's hear your report.
I don't actually, there's not a lot. I don't think we even have anything really on the agenda as far as specific things that are going on. The only thing that I did kind of want to report on was that Tom and I have been looking for some time at updating changing the accounting system. Harris is not the most user-friendly system. And I think that we could definitely find something that would work a lot better. So I have a lot of notes and a lot of some research that I've done, which I've imparted a lot of that to Tom along the way, and we'll certainly have all of those things, but it probably doesn't make sense at this point to do that until the next controller is in place and let them choose those things. But at least I do feel like some of the legwork's done on that. And I think it's something that really should be done, but obviously that is something Tom and the new controller can decide, but I know Tom's Tom's on board with it. So we've had several issues. There's just a lot of, you can't export reports out of Harris. A lot of reports you can export some, you can, but you can't export very many into Excel. We've just had some issues in just the way things have kind of happened with that, but there's 3 that I've kind of been looking at pretty intently and have done a lot of demos and some research into. So I have a spreadsheet set up and I'll be passing that along, but I kind of wanted to go ahead and just throw it out there because I think it's something that probably will come back up at some point that the board will have to consider and think about doing. But I think it'll be worth any investment that's going to be necessary up front, because that's where the costs are going to be, is in implementation of a new system and converting the data. So, and that varies pretty widely with the systems that I've even looked at. So that's one thing that we want to, that I'll, preserve all my notes about.
Well, thank you for your research on this. I would like to ask, well, I'm familiar with the problems with the Harris accounting system because the county uses for most of my time on the council.
Yeah.
And we had to do our own workup for budget planning. And now that has changed because the county is now fully engaged in the WOW system. And is the WOW system one that you looked at?
It was not. That was one that I was going to look at before I made any decisions. So that's, I figured that was one that was, we would have the opportunity to do hands-on, go and look at. So the ones that I'd done more research on were ones that I had to do demos, and I did several like not webinars, but virtual meetings, and did demos on those. The system that the county uses is one that I was thoroughly hoping to go and talk to them and just see in action, and then get some pricing on. I also did try to get something from the county or from the city, and I couldn't get any answers back. So I kind of ran into a brick wall there on what they were using, because I thought that was another good avenue to pursue. But I was kind of referred to a couple people, and it just was dead in the water. I could never get anybody to really work with me on that. But the county, I'm sure, I could just call and go and look at that. So I think that's the other thing that I would propose in this, is the 3 that I've looked at, and then going to look at the one that the county uses. And I think that would be a good opportunity to just see it in action. So
yes. Kathy, will you have time to do this before your departure date?
Probably not to go look at theirs, but I think that's I can incorporate what I know about it. I've done a little bit of looking into it, and I can incorporate that into my notes as to what I think next steps would be. So
that would be good. We'd be glad to have anything you can provide on that front.
Yeah.
Are we talking about a software system?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I can ask the city. I mean, maybe I'll get
I don't remember if it was Kathy or I that initiated it, but we reached out to Jeff Underwood, and he referred us to somebody else, and I can't remember who that was. And I think that's
Was
where.
it Cheryl Oldham?
No, I think it was another Jeff. It was another guy because Tom reached out and because he had familiarity with Jeff Underwood and he introduced me to him and he said, this is what we're trying to do. And Jeff said, oh, you need to talk to this other person. They are the person that is the expert on the city's accounting system. And so I reached out to them and I never could get any answers back from that person. And I would have to look back through my emails to see who that was. I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus. It just didn't work out. So,
Well, it just would be a name for me to follow up with. Or
right,
talk
exactly. And I can forward that to you. I'm happy to do that.
Jeff McMillan,
Okay,
the other Jeff.
okay. So Isabel has that name now.
Okay.
So great. Well, that'll be appreciated.
I
Isabel.
just think if there's something that we could see that was actually in use that we know works in something. And what I tried to do with the 3 that I looked at was to ask for references. And I specifically asked, can you give me a reference of somebody in Indiana, preferably somebody that answers to the State Board of Accounts and, is a similar type organization. So those were the 3 things I was hoping to find. And it's difficult to get that specific, but I did get a couple references. And, like I said, I've talked to Tom about, the progress along the way. So he kind of knows a lot about where I'm at, but I do have spreadsheets and a lot of notes that I've prepared, and I will make sure that those are all, and I'm available. I'm not going anywhere. So you can always call me, but I'm happy to answer anything. So.
Thank you.
Thank you
She
very
just
much.
offered to work for free.
Did she? We all heard that, Kathy.
I said answer questions.
She needs questions with answers like yes, no.
No, I am happy to answer questions if there's something that, comes up about these things, because I've spent quite a bit of time, looking into them, and I really hate to drop the ball on this, but it's just life. But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at, and I do think it'll be a good thing if we can move on from that. So Tom, did you want to talk about the credit card thing here, or is that kind of on a different
I think this is a good time to approach it.
sorry, I can't hear you.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I do. But I think
No, Isabel has something.
Okay.
I had another question about the accounting software. So you said, of course, there'll be a cost of implementation and conversion of data. Does the implementation cost you're talking about include actually purchasing the software? And what's the range of what we can expect to pay?
Well, that was a huge range, because and it does include purchasing the license. You're purchasing the license for the software is what you're doing. And it includes that. So the upfront cost includes the purchasing the licensing for the software and training on the systems. And a lot of times that's, them coming in-house to teach people how to do these things. I would think that some of that could be done remotely, but I think in the past, a lot of times it's been them coming in to actually work, in the office. And then the conversion of our data is, taking our Harris information and putting it into this new software, obviously, to make it so we don't have to, it's like, well, where did that go? And a lot of it is dependent on how many years worth of data you want to be converted. So that's a huge factor as well. A lot of times it's 3 years, 2 to 3 years is what is converted. The rest of it can be archived and can kind of be out there, but it's not something you're going to have ready access to. So you really have to think through what you want to have ready access to. And I think a big point would be, when's the last time we had an audit, and you would want access to all of the information from the last time that there was a full audit. So that might increase the cost because I think there's a few years there that you might want to have that very readily accessible. That's just my opinion. But that's something that you can do. And to be totally honest, I got upfront costs of anywhere from $10,000 to $60,000. So, yes,
60?
60.
Wow.
10,000 to 60,000.
Big
So-
difference, big range.
Yeah, that
But
was a huge range.
There
And
are some real differences among the software programs. I recall from when the county was planning their conversion, their departure from Harris. And WOW was the most robust and it fit best with what the county was doing in terms of their needs. But
What is it? Lao?
WOW, it's L-O.
I think it's LOEW or something. It
Yeah.
doesn't look like loud,
doesn't-
but
it-
it's,
It looks, it's not low. It's
No,
not
it's-
low.
but it looks like low,
Yeah, it looks like low, but it's not low.
right?
But there are different components within the WOW system. And you don't have to get all of them,
Mhm.
or you don't have to get all of them all at once. So we
That's-
gradually moved our system into more and more components.
And that's the way with almost all of them. They all have individual components and you can buy any or all of them. One of the things that Tom and I talked a lot about is payroll because we don't outsource the payroll, we do it ourselves. So one of the systems that was the first one that I looked at because a nonprofit organization in town that I have a lot of familiarity with uses this, and I know the controller there, the CFO there, and I went and looked at their system, and they had just converted to this system, and they love it. And it wasn't the most pricey, but it was expensive. But they don't have a payroll module. You have to outsource, and they partner pretty intently with ADP. You can go with other companies, but they kind of have a real collaboration with ADP. And we would have to outsource to somebody, not totally outsourced, but we would have to use we would have to use a payroll processor. We could not use, just a module in our accounting software like we have now. All of the other two that I looked at pretty intently had their own accounting module in them. All of them have different things, like they have a lot of, they have advancements all the time. We could do things and get away from some of and you can add these all the time because there are things you can do, like getting away from paper timesheets. You can do a thing where you can, log in, the employees can log in, they can do their time in this software, and they also can get in there and look at any of their paperwork, their tax forms, their, all of that kind of stuff. So I didn't price those so much because I think that's something we would probably want to go to later on. But the payroll piece of it, I was like, no, we need the payroll piece. So that was one of the other things that was kind of a big thing. So we really wanted one that we could do keep the payroll in-house. It gets very pricey to send the payroll out, but
I guess, and then the other thing, if I missed it, if you mentioned it, Kathy, but the other thing that, just like with Harris, there's going to be an annual licensing fee with anything that we get. But even though we have a drastic range of implementation costs, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that annual fee, a little bit more, but they were all pretty close together and a little bit more than Harris, currently what we're doing with Harris.
that is correct. They were all a little more than Harris, but they were all relatively similar in their annual costs.
Okay, well,
Thank you for that research.
we will be talking about this more in the future. So, and it'll be something important in terms of hiring a new controller. um, to know if they had experience in Harris or whatever we might be wishing to adopt. So Kathy, may I ask you a question? Did you know Harris before you came to work as controller?
I had worked with a lot of systems and I'd never even heard of Harris. Just being totally honest.
Yeah, but it wasn't a problem for you.
No, I liken it to a DOS-based system. I mean, it's kind of antiquated,
Wow.
but truthfully it is. I mean, to me, it's, you know, it's compared to what you're used to in most accounting softwares, that's kind of what it's like, but I mean, I don't think I've really had any problems other than just being a little dumbfounded that you can't export a report to Excel and you can't manipulate, you can't massage data to, you know, to produce a report. You know, this is what I've got, but I can't extract anything to help me make decisions or to help me explain things or to help me do anything because it's all there. And then, you know, we ran into problems with it was leaving information off of pay stubs and it was just, and we relatively sure that came from an update at the end of the year, but they wouldn't acknowledge that. They said, oh no, that can't be. And I was like, well, that's when it started.
Yeah.
So I don't, you know, it's just, they're just, you know, there's just some issues, but no, I didn't have any problems learning it, but, you know, and I've worked with a lot, I'd never heard of it, but.
Right. Well, this isn't the only state system that people would like to move away from as fast as they can, because other departments of state government have these great systems where they want you to put data in, but you can't get anything out. So it's just very frustrating.
I think though too, Cheryl, one of the things that you just said, as we look for Kathy's replacement or successor, nobody can replace you, obviously.
Right. Successor.
Yes, that we ought to ask, you know, what experience they have with migrating from one system to another.
It can be difficult. And it's, you know, I know that the organization that I talked to, you know, they said it was a pretty lengthy process that they went through to get theirs migrated and up and running and everything. So it can be.
Okay. Well, fun times at the district.
Yeah.
In the controller's office.
We had one other item under this agenda item. It just because it involves money. Penny, I apologize. I printed stuff off and I forgot that you weren't going to be here in person, and I did not email it to you. I might be able to forward it to you. But you know, we've looked at taking debit and credit cards over in the hazmat facility, particularly if we're going to look at doing tires.
Can I take photos and just send it to her?
I'm gonna find the email and I'm gonna forward it to her.
Okay.
So Kathy, if you go ahead and I guess start to bring them up to speed on what we've talked with German American about and some of the costs, and I will get this information to Ms. Giffen.
We talked to German American about, you know, what are our options as far as taking credit and debit cards, what are the costs going to be, what are, you know, just help us out here with what those things are. And this has been a little bit, what goes back a couple months that we talked to them, but we did get some information. And what they asked us for to start things was what our average monthly income from recycling transactions were and what the average transaction amount was, so that they could put us into their pricing structure and see where we could hopefully, you know, get the best pricing structure. And so what they wanted to do is they've got different tiers of pricing that they will do for giving us a machine where we can run debit and credit cards, because a lot of people just don't have cash and a lot of people don't write checks anymore. So What they wanted to do was called their Trans Freedom Pricing, which was a Tier 1 Chart A, and it comes with one free piece of equipment. So we would have one piece of equipment that they would give us for the recycling center, and 3 rolls of paper per month if needed. And it would allow us to process up to $1,500 in card volume, and that would cost $39 a month. And if we process over the allotted amount, there's a $20 fee for each $500 in additional volume. And then from there, we can adjust that pricing structure when we see how things are going. And they wanted to look at our average transaction amounts to kind of get an idea where we're at, but we know that not everybody's going to automatically come in and start using debit and credit cards. For one thing, people aren't going to know we do that. And some people still will pay with cash, I think. So that's where we thought that they thought that we would probably come in for that. So for the $39 a month, we're going to get all of those things. We're going to get the machine, the 3 free rolls of paper. We get to process $1,500 a month in card volume, and we'll get online reporting access and PCI compliance, which they're kind of throwing in for free because that's normally something else that's that they charge for, and a data breach security, which covers our business up to $100,000 in the event of a data breach. So those are kind of the prices that we got for that. And there's not really any issue at all with them getting it set up and going. I don't think it would take too long for them to do that. They didn't indicate that there would be any real time factor. They're pretty, they do this quite often, I think. So that wasn't an issue for them.
Penny, did you get that information?
Yes, I'm looking at it right now. If there were ever a problem, if we started to have excessive fees, we could always try to switch to something else, right? This isn't a long-term contract with them.
No,
No, not at all.
We can change tiers up and down. We might have, if we were going over, we might have 1 month where we paid some extra fees, but then that next month we could get bumped up to the next tier. And the other caveat in this that is on the agenda yet, if we start taking tires, some of the proposed tire fees, particularly if they're on rims, people are going to be having transactions well in excess of $20.
Right. Yeah, especially if they come in with 4 tires.
Yeah. 4 tires on the rim would be $44.
Yeah.
Basically, depending on what type of tire they are.
Is there a startup fee in addition to the $39 a month?
I don't believe so.
I'm sorry, I can't hear
Startup
that.
fee?
What?
Startup fee?
I don't think so. Not my recollection. There wasn't any. There's nothing mentioned in this email, and I don't recall her saying anything about it. It's been 3 months since we talked about this in a sit-down meeting.
Yeah.
But I don't recall them saying anything about that, and it's not outlined here.
And we would put this over in the household hazardous waste facility. That's where we're already set up to transact money, and we would process the tires through there. We have, we have phone lines, we have Ethernet, internet connection. We have all the technology we need to put the machine in place. And I think, and even if we wind up, bumping up to the tier 2, which would be the $3,500 a month in essence, because they give you that $3,000 bonus at $79 a month. I'm comfortable with the district absorbing that cost and not trying to structure fees that some places charge you an extra $1 to run a credit card, and it's not enough money for me that it's. I think we can absorb that, and that's the cost of providing that convenience to the residents.
And it will be convenience to the staff as well.
Yeah.
I think, ultimately. You have a sense, Kathy, about our average ticket
Average transaction amount was $30 for what we're doing now. And again, it's going to change if you implement the tire, but
So do you think it will decrease it below $20 average with the tires coming in? Okay, so we have a good sense of what we're.
Yeah, and I would
extend.
say, I think that some of the businesses may elect to use their credit card, but that's what gets us up to that $30 transaction amount is, because businesses pay fees on about everything that they would bring to us. And that's what gets that transaction amount up in the $30 range.
Wait, I'm sorry, did I miss something that our average transaction has to be a certain amount?
Chart A pricing is based on an average ticket of $20 or average transaction of $20 or more.
That's what I was asking.
The chart
about,
B
yeah.
pricing is if you're,
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
but
Okay.
like Kathy said, we sent them about a year's worth of transaction data, and they came back and it was $30 and said, this is where you want to be.
That's what we- Very glad to see this.
You got, currently, the bulk of them are $20 or more because they're TVs. Two
Yeah.
TVs is $40.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
but we also have the $4 and $5 couple of cans of latex paint. That comes through now and then.
I would love to get to the items we have to vote on because I would like to have a little time to scarf down some dinner before my 6:30 meeting.
Oh, yes, we've got to get Isabel to her.
And I guess real quick on this, are you comfortable? Can staff go ahead and move forward with this? Or it's not a big dollar amount, or do you think that is something that should go to the board before we?
I don't think so. I think that should be something that we will report to the board.
Yeah.
That we've done. Would you include that in your director's
Yes.
report?
Yep.
Okay.
Penny, is that okay with you?
Yeah, and I think then next year it would go into the budget stuff too, so, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So next we will consider resolutions, and thank you very much, Kathy Martin.
you're welcome.
Appreciate
Kathy.
you.
We'll miss you.
Yeah,
I mean, you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, of course.
Yeah.
but not necessary.
Let's talk about the resolution number 6.
I apologize. Friday, Lee Baker had indicated that he would be here. And I don't have a cell number for him, and I emailed him a little bit ago and have not heard back, not in his office, but
I thought he said he was gonna be out for maneuvers or something. I thought he had,
that was the last meeting.
okay. Maybe it was, I read that in the minutes and I'm confusing it. Sorry.
I don't have any numbers for him either,
But
other than
Yeah.
office.
and I kind of wanted him here. I mean, obviously the question came up because of the agenda item at the last CAC meeting. And I think you all saw, they sent out the relevant section of the video to the 3 of you and to Mr. Baker. And Mr. Porter from High Speed did not attend the meeting. So CAC member Paul White, who had the discussion with him, presented what he understood that discussion to be, but and what I took out of it was that he was looking more at some sort of a public-private partnership to purchase a shredder or a grinder to process the tires. And that's for me, that's not what the district wants to do. There's plenty of processors and haulers already licensed, registered. in the state of Indiana, and I thought our goal was to get the tires to them to be, properly managed. So, in Mr. Baker's email that he responded, this is the email after he reviewed that. The MCS WMD previously took the necessary preliminary steps to implement a waste tire collection program in compliance with Indiana code. In my opinion, unless these steps are repeated, the ideas presented by Mr. Porter of high-speed tire and automotive do not, at this time, comply with the prescribed process and should not be considered. I'm not real clear where that leaves the district with regard to continuing to move forward with our plan to accept waste tires.
So my interpretation of that is to move forward.
Yeah, me too.
That's my take on it.
And for a company to come in after the information request process that was set out and made available to high speed is difficult. And I know that a CAC member is interested in what high speed proposes to do, but that doesn't really have anything to do with what the district is
No,
wanting to do.
and if we move forward with what is in these two resolutions, that would in no way preclude us from down the road considering partnering with high speed or anybody else
Absolutely.
to purchase the equipment to process the tires.
Absolutely. And so this is probably not that, these resolutions are not the end of our discussion on waste tires. If we open up the process again in the future, which we could do, then that would be the time for high speed to contact us.
Yeah,
And-
anybody can approach us at any time to propose a public-private partnership on anything.
And High Speed Tire was one of the entities that was approached when we had the call for proposals. Or,
No, well, we did not directly contact any specific entities. We
it was just.
put out a public
Yeah.
request for information to see what other entities were doing and if they had any concerns with the district accepting waste tires. It was not directly sent to any company or entity, but it was publicly advertised. It was, word of mouth, social media. We put it out there as much as we could. And it got no responses.
That deadline was March or something.
Yeah, that was issued in at the end of January, and I think the end of February, beginning of March was the deadline on that, because we wanted to present those results at the March board meeting. So that all of that said, so the resolution 2022-06 is a determination that's required by statute that the board must pass in order for a solid waste district to implement a new waste management program, which accepting waste tires would be considered. And you can see in there, we've kind of identified the specific types of tires that we think we can manage as a staff, that we think the residents would have a need to get rid of. You can also see it under number 4 in the now therefore. We have restricted it to Monroe County, Indiana residential sources only. We're not interested in taking commercial tires or taking tires from commercial entities.
Where does it say that?
Number
Under
4.
number 4 in the now therefore. And
So I had several questions about that too.
Okay.
Are people going to have to show like some proof of where they reside?
well, that's yes, to the extent that they currently do. I mean, we have a number of things that have restrictions on the Monroe County residents. And, we have an intake form at Household Hazardous Waste. Again, that's where the bulk of this occurs. And, we have things that we take at HHW that are free to Monroe County residents, but cost money for out-of-county residents or commercial entities to bring. So there's an intake form that people basically vouch that, they're non-commercial and that they're a Monroe County resident. And we would implement those same types of, check procedures on the waste tires that were brought in.
Okay, I've got three big questions for me. Between 06 and 07, and 06, it says the service, waste tire collection services by means of its own workforce or by contract with a third party. But in resolution 07, it says by means of its own workforce. So are those supposed to be consistent?
I will
would
confirm that with Mr. Baker, because he added the or by contract with a third party in resolution 06, because that is the language in the statute.
Okay, but that's not the language that's in 07 when I looked at it.
Right.
And by the way, I was in touch with Mr. Baker just now. He said he wasn't aware of the meeting and he didn't bring home his laptop, so he can't join us. Sorry.
Okay.
But so yeah, the difference between the two, the 06 and the 07, and then in terms of the types of tires, in 06, it doesn't specify things like motorcycle, which is included in 07, and ATVs, and I would assume that tires on certain types of trailers that are pulled are the same size or even smaller than car tires. So I would think that we'd probably want to include those also.
Yeah, the motorcycle tires, those should have been on there, and I apologize. Now, and I will say, I will check with the vendor on those descriptions are taken from the vendor's price list.
Okay.
And so that's, we used their descriptions. So I will confirm with them,
About trailer.
where does, a camper trailer, a boat trailer, those type of tire fall into these classifications.
Yeah. Or even an RV.
So,
MRV, yeah.
Yeah.
because there's no reason that we couldn't.
Yeah,
Those tires aren't large enough to create an issue for staff to handle. So
Right.
And ATVs. So 3 things.
okay.
So, I was wondering immediately about tractor tires and
They're too big for somebody to handle easily often.
my tires. Yes,
So,
tractor tires are a treasure though for people who want to have sandbox.
well, and some of that, we got into, size, staff's ability to
Yeah,
physically
it's-
manage them,
They
and
are big.
price. I mean, equipment and agricultural tires are pricey for,
To be processed.
yeah. I mean, they are pricey.
So is tractor something you asked about and is definitely not possible? Or is something you're going to ask about?
No, we look at agricultural tires are on their list, and I want to say, no, not on, they're on the pricing list we got from the vendor.
Okay, so we should add them probably, if the staff can handle this.
They're gonna be $40+ a tire. That's the vendor's price on an agricultural tire was $40 or $50. I don't have the list in front of me, I apologize.
But then there can be real issues with, they're so big, there can be storage issues and things like that too. I
Right.
mean, some of these are just
Just
Huge.
Yeah, maybe best to leave them on.
And to some extent, to some of this, we looked at, like we do with a lot of the things that we have fees for, some fees for that, and I get that, the small local farmer is somebody that we want to try to support and stuff, but that's a cost of doing business, is maintaining your equipment. And, and is it fair for us to give somebody that's smaller in size a benefit that's somebody doing the same type of business that's larger in size wouldn't get from us. Whether that's, farming, painting, landscaping, any of those types of companies that would potentially have HHW materials.
So, for lawnmowers, I would note that some of them actually look like little tractors and they can have some pretty big tires. So I'm wondering if lawnmowers should not have a dimension indicated, lawnmower up to X size.
I will have to check with the vendor on
Okay.
if they have size as part of their
Yeah,
definition.
because some of those so-called lawnmowers are and garden tires are just huge. It's like so small farm versus residential is sort of melds together.
And then and the other thing that is in 06, number 5, district staff shall establish criteria regarding quantities and conditions of tires that will be accepted, because
Right.
a vendor doesn't want a tire that's been buried in the mud for 5 years that
Yeah.
got dug up because we were, landscaping the property. So we will have to establish and publish for the public bringing tires into us that, we aren't going to take tires that have been cut in half. We aren't going to take tires that are caked in mud. That's because the vendor won't accept those.
And so this will be posted at South Walnut, and it will also be on the website.
Well, yeah, and particularly when, if all of this goes through and is adopted, we'll do public service announcements on the radio that we're doing it, and to go here or, on our Facebook page, we'll put that out there
Right.
to make sure that everybody's, the last thing we want are people showing up with a truckload of tires and we say, well, we can only take 3 of them.
So this is a very good discussion to have. Penny, did you have other questions?
No, that covered what I wanted to ask about. Yeah.
So do we want to leave in there that it might be by contract with a third party?
Well, that's, I will confirm with Mr. Baker. He added, I did not originally have that in 06. He put that in there, but because that's the language out of the statute. And so I will confirm that with him. And then also, how does that apply to the similar statement in 07?
Thank you.
And so and then assuming that we resolve those questions, issues, are we comfortable taking these to the board next week?
I think everybody's nodding their head.
I am.
Okay.
And I know we have a July 1 goal.
Yes.
So we better get this done to the board. So
So
if you find any problems with any of these possible additions or changes, would you contact us by email and
yes, we will.
see if we can get it synced
And
on
we
this?
can push it back if we have to. And I would also note that in 2022-07, the amended fee resolution indicates that it takes effect July 1. But we're not changing anything other than adding those fees for tires.
In your information that you're going to put out publicly, will you be indicating the tires that the district does not want to accept? Meaning, will you be listing tires?
The tires we do accept is a smaller list. I mean, it's the
Tractors.
spreadsheet they
Semi.
sent me with pricing on it is an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper that's an Excel spreadsheet and about a 10-point font.
Oh, who knew there were that many kinds of tires?
Yeah. Okay. Well, if we're ready to move to the next agenda item,
And I will just add real fast to that, you know, if we pass all this, you know, we start taking tires on July 1, you know, we can always come back and amend things. We can change the policy of what we do
Oh,
and
yeah.
don't take. And,
And
you know, based on whatever, you know, whatever the residents' needs are, we can, you know, we can adjust if we're not meeting, you know, not meeting the needs of the residents satisfactorily.
So I move that we forward ordinance.
resolution.
We don't do ordinances. Resolution 2022-06 to the full board for approval. You know, pending checking the things that we just talked about.
Second that.
Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
Munson,
Yes.
Munson,
Yes.
motion passes.
Okay. Resolution 2022-07. A motion, please.
I move that we forward resolution 2207 to amend the district's fee resolution to the full board for approval.
Second.
We'll have a roll call vote.
Munson,
Yes.
Smith.
Oh, so we're not going to talk about it. We've
Oh.
already talked about it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yes,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I jumped
Well, yeah,
in.
we've had questions on it. And we
Yes.
talked. Did you have questions? We already want to verify the language regarding the third-party vendor that's in 06 and not in 07. And we want to check with the vendor to verify tire descriptions and any other size or other requirements or limitations on their descriptions.
I guess my question is, in this whole process, have you only been communicating with one vendor? Is there only one that would pick up our tires?
What right now, this is based on our current vendor who we've been using for the tires, the illegally dumped tires collected. I have talked with 2 other vendors and they've not sent me pricing. But one sent me just an email that said, you know, this type of tires, this type of tires, this much. And I said, well, what about all these other tires? So again, you know, we just like with what we do and don't take, if we get a better deal that comes along, or conversely, if the vendor, if we, you know, look at a price increase, we can always come back and amend the fee resolution, if up or down, if we find ourselves in a position where the pricing changes for any reason.
At the board meeting, it would be very good to talk about flexibility and changing these 2 resolutions as we would need. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, now let's have a roll call vote.
Munson,
Yes.
Piedmont Smith,
Yes.
Githens,
Yes.
motion passes.
So, great. So the next agenda item is to discuss the controller position, which we did in
We
part.
did a little bit, and I guess all that I really wanted to confirm with the executive committee, since it is the same 3 members, do we want to move forward with this in the same manner that we did previously before Ms. Martin was hired?
Well, I believe so.
The position has already been advertised in some online forums and in the Herald Times. So I've already moved forward with advertising it in the same manner that we did before.
So I would say something about the possibility of changing accounting systems. But that's something that we can find out when we interview people,
I think that's more over for an interview session.
because there's a lot of responses to job postings that aren't even close to.
We saw that last time.
Yes.
We already have an applicant from Africa.
Very interesting. Listen, do you guys mind if I leave?
No, we're going to talk about the budget and
Just a
And
little
we know
bit.
you don't have anything to say about that. Just kidding. This is all preliminary. So
Yes, I would just put a plug in for discussing a new staff position, even still in this year. We can.
in terms of education.
Yeah.
That's what I remember. Okay.
Thank you very much. Bye.
To see you.
Thank you, Isabel. Fine. Okay. Regarding the controller position, I want to say this when Isabel was here. I think we are in a good position because of Connie's experience and her potential availability. Would you like to talk about that, Tom? So Penny and I know,
Yes, yeah.
and Joseph.
Yeah, obviously, when this person submitted her resignation, I spoke with Connie. Connie is agreeable to resuming those duties until the position is filled. So we'll make her acting controller, adjust her pay accordingly, and we'll reorganize the front of the office a little bit. Elisa and I will have to take on some more duties with regard to answering the phone and greeting people that come in. But we've all talked about that, and we think that it's certainly something that'll be manageable for a short-term basis. Thankfully, the timing worked out well for that. With school is out, so Elisa has more time available in the office than she otherwise would. So that works out. So yeah, the gap is not going to be near as severe as it could have been.
So I know it's going to be extra work for our staff, but we hope it's all well organized and that doesn't keep them from doing their usual things too. So,
We'll make it work.
making it work, yeah. So good. Any questions, Penny?
No, but I do want to say this to Kathy. I've always felt so confident in your work and have always just known that it was done right. So I am sad that you're leaving, but I understand why. So I just wanted to say that before we moved on.
Yeah. And I just hope we can find a clone for Kathy Martin.
I was muted. I'm sorry, but I appreciate that, Penny, very much. Thank you.
So, okay, well, if there's nothing further on that, we certainly have the next item. The items deemed appropriate for executive committee discussion.
Skipped over my budget discussion.
Oh, I did. I'm so sorry. Your budget discussion. Oh,
Yeah.
tell us the preliminary.
Well, there's just obviously, we have brought before the board over the past few months some, price increases from vendors on some of our contractual arrangements. I don't anticipate that's done. I think that there's more of those coming. The other unknown that may result in a savings that our current recyclables and transportation agreement with Republic Services expires the beginning of May next year. So that is something that will have to go out for bid or proposal over the winter. And we don't know where that will leave us. I hope fuel prices settle down a little by then. Otherwise, that will drastically impact that. But so we do have with the inflationary period is not an ideal time to project a budget. The other thing that I think that you need to be aware of, that you have a compliance department that feels like they have been expressing how the compliance cases, the things going on at the landfill, and you know, how, I don't, overwork's not the right word, but you know, that they're really burdened right now. And they're sitting in and watching these meetings where new staff positions are being proposed, and
Yeah.
nobody's offering them any help.
Well, then we need to be
And-
hearing from you
And
about that.
so what, well, Mr. Paulson and I have discussed this, and you will potentially see a new compliance position in the initial budget proposal.
So how do you contemplate arranging the work duties?
Well, that is something that we've talked about, and he has he's taking his job description and Mary Beth's job description and working to develop a job description for this potential position.
Mhm.
You know, but the issue is that, you know, that is obviously going to impact our ability to create additional positions, and the funds that might be available, you know, for outreach positions, or another truck driver to run recycling routes. This is all preliminary too, but you know, we have just gotten all of the individual department budget proposals. Well, in fact, I think we have them all now, but they weren't due to Kathy until tomorrow. And so then we got to combine all of those and see what our big picture looks like. Still don't have, you know, a growth quotient estimate from DLGF yet to know that the revenue impact, but you know, that I'm concerned of the reaction if we create a new truck driver or another outreach position and don't do anything for our compliance department.
So I'd like to ask about flexibility of working in two departments. Is that possible for a truck driver and somebody in compliance?
It could be, and it could be.
Less so probably for an educator and a truck driver, or educator in compliance.
Yeah. It would depend on, I mean, it would just depend on the time commitment.
Mhm.
For, I guess, you know, if we're looking at hiring another truck driver to run an apartment recycling route, I think the time commitment of that would dictate their ability to split time with another
Mhm.
department.
But we do know we want to grow that, and we have to be ready to operationalize it once we
well,
can
yeah.
get it.
And whether it's doing that, you know, whether it's another outreach position, whether it's a new position in compliance, you know, any of those things are growth, and
Mhm.
they're not one-time expenses, and we have to consider our ability to continue to fund those initiatives
And
in years moving forward.
we have to consider doing so within the growth quotient.
Yes.
So one thing that I think I find some concern in is that if our contractual arrangement would go up greatly in 2023. Now, I'm not worried about not having revenue available, because we do have revenue available in our,
We have
the revenue.
Reserves can be a short-term bridge.
But changing a budget when you're already at the growth quotient, I don't know what that means.
Well, yeah. I think we have also.
Because we could do an additional appropriation because we know we have the revenue, but are we going to be constrained by the growth quotient?
Well, yeah. We don't know. And obviously the growth quotient is not the same year after year.
But we pretty much max it out.
But yeah, but I think that we've also identified some things for the 2023 budget that will present some cost savings that
Good to
might
hear.
make some of these things, you know, a little more palatable.
That's good to hear.
So,
Very good to hear. Kenny, do you have any comments or questions?
No, this is your area of expertise, Cheryl, much more than mine.
You just heard me worry, right?
Well, but I mean, it'll just be good to see, I'd like to see where we expect to have savings and things like that. So,
I'm
yeah.
really looking forward to hearing about
Yeah,
that.
and obviously, we're looking at the same timeline that we've continued to have, where, the next executive committee meeting, you'll see a first draft of the budget that would then anticipate being presented to the board at their July meeting. And then take whatever comments, suggestions, review from that, and present a revised version for the board to approve in August. That, we're still looking at that timeline, and I just wanted to, I guess, give you guys a heads up, some preliminary information that, there may be some new things that show up, and we're just going to have to see what we have the ability to fund and sustain moving forward.
Yeah, I'm based on what Mr. Paulson said at the last couple of meetings, I'm not surprised at all that he is pushing for an additional staff person. And after seeing the growth in the unresolved cases, I think that that's a reasonable kind of request as well.
So one of the things that concerns me is that we shouldn't have rules, regulations, requirements that we are not going to stand behind and enforce. It just doesn't make any sense. And we have a lot of that in this county, unfortunately, in terms of land use. And it's nobody wants to get into legal issues, but for the district, which we're charged with being responsible for, I think we need to pay attention and make sure they have the resources they need for compliance.
Well, and I will relate to you that since we have made our change in legal providers, and now, Lee and Mary Beth said that having Mr. Baker, who works in the county attorney's office, the county attorney's office is more responsive now when we go with private property cases, and because we have that person that is dedicated to us. But at the same time, when people want to fight something or not comply, you still wind up dealing with the court system, and the wheels of justice don't always move swiftly. But I think that Mary Beth in particular is pleased with some of the changes she's seeing now that we're working directly with somebody in the county attorney's office for legal consultation.
So I'm very glad to hear that. Is one of our financial savings having to do with legal expenses?
We'll see.
You may not have the information.
Yeah, I don't know that we have that information. Part of it's inflated a little bit this year because I think we all kind of decided that for the purposes of working with Rumpke and getting a host fee agreement in place, we wanted to work with Ms. Parker due to her familiarity with the agreement with Republic. Obviously, that's not been presented to the board yet.
Yeah.
But it is obviously something that we need to have in place before they open their doors. So it'll just be a matter of how fast we can get final agreement together to present to the board, and whether or not we would potentially need Ms. Parker for any services related to that in 2023.
And we may well.
We may well.
Yeah, I'm sort of expecting. In any case. So, Kenny Giffens, do you have any comments or questions on the budget issues?
No, I think that the sort of issues, the broad issues have been laid out for us. So now it'll just be looking at the real numbers.
Okay. So let's then move to all other items deemed appropriate. And I have one. Kenny, do you have anything?
No, thank you.
Okay, I have one, which is reporting back to you all, and I'm sorry Isabel isn't here. about the very sparse response from board staff and CAC on the executive director's review. And I did have send out a reminder, as you all know. And I think we're going to just have to go with what we get. I don't feel like it's appropriate to hassle people over this. Two times is okay, and the third is sort of a hassle. So
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, and I did not feel that it was appropriate for me to
you're
talk
out
to
of
staff about getting it submitted or not submitted or whatever.
And I absolutely. So I was glad to do that. I learned one thing, and that is some of the district's employees use their phone as their computer. And they could see the Word document of the questionnaire on their phone, but they couldn't handle filling it out.
Right.
So, and I never even thought that this was possible. And had I thought this, I might have slightly revised the letter.
Connie and I did get hard copies delivered to a handful of employees that requested them. I will.
Yep.
There was one in the Dropbox this morning where they put all their timesheets. Somebody put the self-addressed stamped envelope. So that got put in the mail to you today. So there's one
Okay.
more coming at least.
One more coming. Okay. Very good. I like the drop. So they didn't want to put a stamp on it.
We put a stamp on it.
The district took care of that. Thank
We
you.
gave it to them with a stamp.
Oh,
on
you
it.
gave it to them with a stamp on it. I saw that the envelopes were all typed and looking very formal. So I
Lovely.
realized the envelopes had been given to them as well, but that's funny. So I will tackle the job of compiling these. And we will have this done when it's done. How's that? It will be done, I'm sure, before we have another executive committee meeting. So,
Cheryl, there were a couple people that put that hour on their timesheet today, and we changed that because you are going to send a list of anybody that completed that. Is that correct?
yes, I am, and I just haven't gone through every. So
That's
if
totally okay. I just wanted to make sure so I could make sure that Connie knew what the process was going to be on that.
oh, and should I be notifying the okay, I could look at those respondents because the deadline is now there.
Yeah.
I'll get the one in the mail. When do you do payroll, Kathy?
We just did it today, so it'll be 2 weeks before it's done again. So it's not a problem. It can go on the next one without any problem, but there was more than one person that put it on their timesheet today. So in case
Yeah.
anybody asked, I just wanted to kind of get a time on when, we could expect that we would get that on that, so we can explain that to them. So.
And should I be notifying the staff that their time will count in the next pay period? Would that be helpful? I don't want Tom to do this.
No, I think it'll be fine. If we get any questions about it, I will tell them. If I know for sure that you're going to send that and we'll get it on the next payroll, then
We'll
I'll
get it on the next payroll, and
I'll tell them that
it.
it'll be on the next one, because we just deducted that off the timesheet because we didn't, we were just going to do it all at once, but we weren't sure when. So
That
Just
sounds
explain
good.
to them that we wanted, that you were gonna provide the list and we would make that payment based on that list of responses.
And so just waiting for the last mail to come in. That's why we're gonna kick it down the road. Okay, well, I don't have anything other than that, but I'm glad I brought it up. Joseph Winia has his hand up. Hi there, Joe.
Hello. Thank you. If now is an appropriate time, I did just want to make a comment on the preceding agenda item about the 2023 preliminary budget discussion. Just to add that, I appreciate, Tom, your mention about the need for support for the compliance department. I think that as important as it is to continue pushing forward on the 5-year management plan goals and objectives, that the core operations also need to continue to be supported. And I would hate for one to supersede the other to the chagrin, particularly of
Yeah.
staff and their ability to operate. And I think with respect to, I guess, priorities of the 5-year management plan goals and objectives, I think continuing the waste reduction outreach efforts are going to be a high priority because of just I think the cost of managing waste is going to continue to go up as the global resource availability and climate situations continue to persist and continue. So I think that the best long-term strategy is going to be to try to take advantage of the resources we have now to try to communicate that message and to try to work on reducing the amount of waste that's being managed, since it's going to be increasingly difficult to do so going forward. So those are my 2 cents on long-term strategies.
So thank you, Joe. So do we have anything further business to discuss? If not, thank you all for attending, and this meeting will be adjourned. Thanks. Hope you're walking okay, Penny.
I'm limping, but that's okay. Thanks.